Okay. I figured out how to do. Okay. How to do YouTube. Okay. Pause. Stop sharing. Okay. View. Make it yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, are you able to see my video also?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Share sound. All right. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, are you able to see my video also?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Welcome. Are you laughing?
Mm-hmm.
Where is this thing? I'm not seeing. Okay. View. Okay. All right. Are you laughing? You said you can see me, right?
Why is it playing?
I think it's live streaming.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out how to live stream on Zoom and YouTube at the same time.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, and I was able to live stream, but it's showing there's an echo in the background somewhere. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna just try something out. See if I mute Zoom, if it's going to allow me to still hear what is being said. And let's see if that will work. Thank you for your patience.
Automation.
Let me move this here. Oh, okay. Don't show captions. Hide captions. Full transcript. View full transcript. Okay. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. Okay, great. That's wonderful. Then now I'm going to share my screen again. What?
That's mom. She's asking if you're the
What?
one. I mean, mom.
Say hello to mom. Did you tell mom we're practicing?
She just came in. she overheard my voice and she came in.
Okay. Keep talking. Keep talking. I want to try something out to see. Yeah, just keep talking randomly.
Okay, today's a good day. Today's a beautiful day. And we're here for Zoom Zoom. Yeah, we're here to have a lot of impacts from what the world looks like. You know, being not afraid of whatever situation you find yourself, being strong enough to face your fears and be able to move forward in whatever you want to do.
Oh, that's nice. Okay. Now I'm going to test it out to see if it's perfect. It's working. Okay, that's great. So we're good. We're set up with YouTube and Zoom. And then we are ready to start. So now I'm going to share my screen with you and share screen. Okay. Oh, what is this? Uh, 1 second.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Hello.
I'm here.
Is mom there?
Yeah.
Let me say hi to mom. Oh, if she's still nearby.
Gift ile.
And hey, mommy.
Nia.
Dear, kanamone.
Adile.
Ikparonia.
Adile nami.
Odige.
Dinge yesi yura. Yesi
Beleaza.
yura. Bege ye ta.
Wafile nye mekiri kiri.
To tani ndana mu uro.
Nyako adu katon atani lo.
O tenia. Tani on the first ni kanina elwa bire. Iparo.
Ekparo ni dige.
Parondi.
Beleaza.
Iparo ka.
Adi.
Udige.
A program.
Oh,
Tobali nye so I tobali.
okay. Thank God.
Mommy
Oh.
Mommy.
Adodowa.
Nka penalo is a presentation. So Samuel Kamei Lebane Doloi penalo. Iteno sa Saluson. Okay. Logo kana. Mommy get crani more. Mommy get crani more.
My God. Me bedi pa. Me bedi. Na bari. My God.
Yes, sir.
Me be na dia na bo bayan loe. Para te be na bele. Nga de jai bing abra ori makenda na bunu. Mo na le aja.
Etenu wada wa magba ni.
Na bunu katuwa gas tam na pasa. Ko ben fere o te koranu moninda. Ben de gbe na.
Adukutam
Ekatuwa
katoa.
Ekatuwa I do I attend.
Okay.
30 minutes past 10.
Wow. That means don't edit to go this presentation. I do like 2 a.m. Boroton or did that
Ndida.
Did that.
Bonda jo ndaba nko na ponina. Jizo be tu no mapone.
Kabo Yima. Be Bago Bate, Bago come Barabi, Warora Yima.
Good. I know why na law. We call language biniga. Why be book euro.
Na ekore ni nwe sira yege na koe me age lo be bo nui nye bage no na yone kada bira de
Nguta roba nyoma.
na yone kada bira de be mbinga na de na kure ya na ra na ge nui na ba to na ringe duna ni asiga na ma bo ra bo na ni asiga
Near Biadi na. Near
Mommy,
Biadi. Oh, my daughter.
Orata lo Bible, nweko okigeda nko okada, but Samuel ekada nie. So,
I can't. No, near basic. I can't.
mvira ko okada, but ogeme ba etara lo Bible before okige make.
Now,
Okay.
na katowa.
Orana katoa.
Yes.
Okay.
Na yere iri ba ndowa ya. Na odo mama. Noko dede lenu aba oro Jehova. Oro na wo buate ne kpedmea. Aba unya ma obe me don ya ma yiriba. Nsu program ma yiriba. Na le da kolonu lale o elelo. Nyo wo yira si nyo we na le warenu. Temano oro ne yere we do kwa wa. Nyo wo su we yerenu awati be we. Sa tabe doko agi bube nye piane. Ba moye no atua ne yere na le luzu. Nyo ko lao na ereba. Akwasin le aloye oro na wo we posin le loa. Oro posin le walo meni ya. Bari bunyo ma bara. Ko bi a lu itane nyo te ma yelo. Jehovah kudempia wo bebe kin. Na wa we luban. Nyo wonda bari bunyo luban. Do kwa lu epira. Enyon be Jesus Christ. Ne yere o ko we lebe. Ne yere ne ye boldness. That is we kwa alo ropiogi. So do ko eba. Gale leyene. De so. Bia ne binye. Ko orona wo ne gbia. Nyali do wo ili bari. Nyoko orona wo buanten. Obe danabeya. Do ko kpeale. Ayenu. Nenyere do ko slowe. Ayara beya. Do ko piane amoye. Nwanuka nale nutanfa. Nenyere oya wekwado. Nyoko wale do enyon. Den son. Sa babe yale sira. Meke na be kere bulu. Ale do wa. Enyon be Jesus Christ. So you saw me Jesus. Ndana you saw me Jesus. Miya akoye webe. Ale do wa ili bari. Sa obe na wa alwe dana ni nyonwa. Den son buye do. Enyon be Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
And so shall
Amen.
it be.
Amen.
Let's
Oh,
all.
yage bobo so.
Kana wa melo ego kana.
Kia do lo kale no go kram noge sampara.
Opara go kana. Opara go kana. Olalo.
Oh, yage movie.
Oizage. Oare kuwe. Betwe tonle nage. Mina kurimbe daban dengedu. Ngedizire ni andano. Ni
Mommy,
andano.
be onyone Samuel ekedanie nyem nage.
Ngena. Ngena. Ngena bayazage. Ni aleni.
Oh yeah, say, oh yeah, dan kem kobe to na duko no da.
Ozage. Kono kakwana post jama. Kono kakwana post jama.
Kono ye.
Nkuruku
Alo
adim.
da ba.
No, koro nda
Lele botu ini mondaro bura. Ina buba. Ina okoro aningi kona post doma.
Mommy,
Oh, nawe.
mommy, na dako me o pere kan o lere kan.
Meninye binte na imaniro.
Mm.
Ogo kore ma.
I get lemon.
Nte mana mago kore ma.
Okay. Mbe yone Samuel biralo pe me ana. Kobe
Ogo kobe nte mana.
kobe nana. Me ngage vie money.
Obe nyone luabe. Obe kobe nte mana.
Aya lemon ni mommy nabo.
Ya.
Lemon. Okay. Tobe age.
Ndabali. Oyage ndabali.
Okay, tobe age. Okay, yes, mommy ebe pa lwa.
Ozage. Bye.
Bye. Mr. Steadfast.
So you're done.
Mr. Steadfast.
Yes, so mommy. Hey. Nim dino coin network now. Nkwa mbina ni akomo dito ba ito mo. Alo kendige. Okay. Ozage mo piga. Thank you.
Okay. You ready?
Okay, enjoy your meal.
All right. Ready to get started?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna start. Okay, welcome everyone to the Zoom meeting. I want to thank you all for coming today. I really appreciate you being here. And I want to welcome you, Mr. Steadfast. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome, welcome. I see you. And we'll just get started shortly. So just make yourself at home, and if you're comfortable, you can turn on your video. If not, feel free to chat. You can leave some comments in the chat, but we'd love to see your beautiful faces if you are able to turn on your video. All right. Now, just get yourself comfortable. Before we get started, make sure you grab a cup of water. We're going to be on for, about an hour. So just, grab a cup of water, get yourself comfortable, and find a nice spot, a nice, quiet, comfortable place where you can feel comfortable to talk and share, because we're going to dive right in and we're going to connect and have a good time. All right. So I want you all to know that your input is very important. So I want to know what you think, as we're going along in the webinar. This is a safe space where we do celebrate openness. We celebrate, authentic sharing. So as we move forward together, let us know what you think. I invite you to be active, to participate, share your thoughts, comments, insights, and we're just going to have a good time. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand using the hand raise button, or you can put your questions in the chat, and we will definitely make time to answer all your questions. Okay, now be sure to stay till the end, because at the end we will be sharing a free resource for you. So there will be some lucky people who will get some free resources at the end. So make sure that you stay until the end of the webinar. All right. Now, before starting, I would really like to start with an open prayer. We want to make space for gratitude. So does anyone want to start us off with a prayer? Any volunteers? Any brave soul? All right. Thank you for volunteering, Mr. Steadfast. Go ahead and say an opening prayer for us before we get started.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and all we are going to do in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you. So we're gonna just dive right in. I want us all to introduce ourselves. Just let us your name. If you're feel like unmuting yourself, you can. And you can turn on your video if you want. Just let us know your name, which state or country you are joining us from, or you can drop in the chat your name and which state or country you are joining us from. All right. So just let me know. You can unmute yourself or send a message in the chat letting us know so we can get to know you better. Okay, so let us know, Mr. Steadfast, where are you joining us from? You can unmute yourself in the mic, speak in the mic, or drop it in the chat. Where are you joining us from, and what is your... Oh, okay. Your name is Mr. Steadfast, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm joining from Nigeria.
Okay, thank you for joining us, Mr. Steadfast. We are glad to have you on here today. Welcome, welcome. So we're just gonna dive right in here. Now, let me just get the slideshow started here. Can you still see my video?
Loading.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen here. Let me know if you're able to see my screen and also my video.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, but not the video?
No, not yet. Your video?
Yeah, like, are you able to see me?
Sure, I can.
Okay. All right. So we'll
But
start off.
why?
Oh,
Sorry for cutting short. Why is it overcoming? Why is it blank something?
hmm?
Why is it crossed with that black?
Oh, this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is it better now?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. So we're gonna start off with an introduction. Welcome again to the webinar presentation today. First of all, I would like to share that this event is being organized by Strong Families and Youth Recovery Project. So we're gonna just get started here. I want to introduce myself. Hello, everyone. I'm your host for today. My name is Dr. Gift Maleko, and I am a recent graduate of Alliance International University. As a couple and family therapy psychology doctorate professional, my specialization is researching, consulting, and speaking about parent-child relationships, father-child relationship, mother-child relationships, and ambiguous loss, strong families, and youth recovery. So those are all things that I'm very passionate about, empowering people. My background is in social work, psychology, and marriage and family therapy. So for today, this webinar is we're going to take an approach that is very holistic. Now, we want to blend both psychology and biblical perspectives to create a well-rounded view of everything. I am a Christian. I work with people from different backgrounds. So, diversity is very important to me. Respect is very important to me. I'm very committed to both of those things. And my values are aligned with Christian principles. It drives my work ethics and everything I do in my work with people in terms of honoring people and respecting people. So, uh, I started these webinars. This is the second one we've had so far, and it's a way for us to connect together and to use all of these training experiences to give back, um, and to engage with the community. So we want to create more conversations, to impact people's lives and create support around parent-child relationships. So my aim is to create space for us to have uncomfortable conversations, topics that maybe people are not talking about, and to be a voice for others. Many times people experience things, or they're struggling silently, but they don't really feel they can talk to anyone about what's going on. So we want to create a community where we can feel open to have these kinds of conversations. And the goal is to have these webinars, maybe once a month or a few months, on different topics. So as we go along, if there are any topics that you particularly are interested in and you would like to see in maybe upcoming webinars, feel free to reach out and let me know, and we will definitely make that happen. So now it's your turn. That's a little bit about me. Um, it's your turn to introduce yourself, and we can start one by one. So, Mr. Steadfast, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm Mr. Steadfast from Cote d'Ivoire. So I picked my interest in this program because this is one of the things that most persons go through, which they can share with any other person, except for those they feel they love, you know. So it's kind of something that brings everyone together to have their views about life, their fears, and what they're going through, mental health, and all that. To all the rudiments to go after that and to be helpful to them for future sake and for those around them. So it's a good one. It's a good seminar. I appreciate it, and I'm the one that loves something like this. Bringing out something creative to tell to the world how you could be of good person to the future and to where you come from and everyone around you. So it's a good one.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing a little bit about yourself. We welcome you and look forward to connecting and engaging more throughout our time together and, in the future too. All right. So, who's the next person that wants to introduce themselves? You can definitely unmute yourself, or you can drop a message in the chat. If not, I will. Oh, you okay? Miss Charity, do you want to go ahead?
Oh, okay. I'm not turning on my video because I'm not fully prepared for that.
Okay.
So, my name is Barigure Charity Neko. I'm excited to be on this platform. I'm fully geared up, fired up to hear all the goodies.
All right. Thank you for joining
I'm,
us. Okay.
I'm joining from Anaheim, California, US.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, Miss Charity. We're glad to have you on here today.
Okay.
Um, so I welcome you all. It was great getting to know each of you a little bit there. So we're going to get started. Today's webinar is about overcoming fear of failure and rejection wounds. Now, this is something that affects everyone. You know, it affects people all across the world, different walks of life. And in our journey through life, you know, we experience challenges. We're always going to have one thing or the other, and sometimes these things makes us to doubt ourselves, you know, and it makes us question our abilities. But you know, fear of failure and rejection is something that can hold us back from achieving our goals and our dreams, from even taking steps forward, taking risk, and ultimately reaching our full potential. So, but it does not have to be that way. You know, fear doesn't have to control your life or your actions. So today we're going to take time to look at how failure teaches us, you know, how rejection affects emotions and how fear holds us back. We're going to look at some strategies to overcome these fears of failure and rejection that affects sometimes the decisions that we make, right? Sometimes it affects our confidence and our well-being and even health. So when we learn to face these fears head on, we can really unlock new opportunities and, you know, achieve success in ways that are beneficial both personally and professionally. So that's what we want to create, that possibility through this webinar. Okay. So, you know, everybody, you are welcome again. And, you know, throughout our time together, you know, I want to share a little bit about what led to this topic and this work here. Professionally, I have taken an interest in addressing this topic of failure and rejection. For me, my struggles with fear have been driven by wanting to look at strategies for overcoming, you know, these fears. And that's what made me to be passionate about helping other people who are facing, you know, similar challenges. So I work with different populations, from students to professionals, you know, in my training program, and I've witnessed firsthand um, how this topic, how these experiences can affect, you know, how fears can affect, you know, mental health and well-being and health. So, like many of you who are on here today, I have experienced fear of failure, you know, during important moments like career transitions and also like personal life, which have led to self-doubt and even questioning like worthiness. But, you know, I'm here and I'm acknowledging and sharing these challenging experiences with you all, you know, in hopes that you will also take that opportunity to allow yourself to be open and connect in areas that may not be all that, you know, beautiful to talk about. But fear of failure actually drove me to start these webinars. Even though I was initially hesitant to, you know, but I realized it was important for the mission, which is what this webinar is founded by, Strong Family and Youth Recovery Project. So these webinars are a way to promote, to advance the Strong Family Project and to connect with the community. So I think for me, my fears of imperfection, like I was always waiting for the right moment to start, right? There's never a right moment. And that's what I've learned, So I just had to push past that fear and just embrace the discomfort and just launch, these webinars. So we had our first one last month. It was about heart healing and love transformation. And now I am here and committed to, working with people who have similar experiences. When it comes to rejection, I think my first experience of that, I would say, was related to intermittent father absence because of immigration. So the immigration journey, I think, kept him emotionally distant. So when he finally left during my college years, I felt a sense of rejection, and I think that created like intense feelings of disconnection for me. So, despite like these initial struggles, I realized that, prioritizing communication and self care is something that is very important in me moving forward, right? Something that is important in bringing stability and success in my career and relationships. So now I'm committed to helping others to overcome, these similar challenges, like healing from parental absence and, building stronger connections with others. So I do understand how important family support is when you're growing up. And so my goal is to create a safe space where, people can share their experiences and grow personally and professionally. And I would say that because of these experiences, I now have more empathy and to helping other people to experience emotional healing. So, that's a little bit about what what led to my interest in this topic. So as we move forward, I just want to, draw on these personal experiences and professional experiences so that we can look at some strategies that can be helpful for us to overcome this fear of failure and rejection. Okay, so starting off, let's look at a few key concepts and definitions before we dive in deeper. So, what is fear? From a psychological perspective, now I'm going to be talking about this from both a psychology and biblical perspective so that we can get a more well-rounded view of everything. But from a psychological perspective, fear is a fundamental human emotion that serves as a survival mechanism. It's triggered in response to threat. When you feel like there is threat or danger, your body activates this fight or flight response. And so it creates physiological changes in your body. Like you might experience your heart rate increasing, or your adrenaline might just rush. And that's some reactions that follows this. So then when you experience this, it's like your body is preparing you to face, this threat that you feel is there. And so in this way, fear is like, it makes us to react quickly, and it's like a survival mechanism. It makes us to make decisions when we are facing life-threatening situations. Now, fear is not always bad. It can be beneficial in some ways. So one way it can help is like letting us know that there is potential danger. It makes you to take precaution before you dive headfirst into a situation that may not, be that may be harmful for you. When we look at it from a biblical perspective, okay, we see that one second here. Okay. I'm gonna take this out. Yes, I did. Okay. From a biblical biblical perspective, fear can be shown. We can see that from doubt. When we experience doubt, when we experience worry, when we experience unbelief in God or in our faith in the Word, in the Word of God. When we doubt His Word, it can be easy to be afraid when we are leaning on our own strength, or maybe when a situation does not go the way you were expecting or even praying about. So, but the good news is we are not alone. We do have God on our side, and while things may happen that we may not always understand, He ultimately does work it out for our good. So you may have heard of the story of Gideon. Gideon is someone who initially was very fearful. He was anxious. He had, doubt. He was supposed to rescue these people, these Israelites. But when we read his story more, we see that the Spirit of God really empowered him, and it empowers us with strength, love, and self-control. And that is what helps to overcome fear and to, accomplish great things. So Gideon was able to accomplish that goal. When we trust in God's strength instead of our own strength, even when we experience failure or challenges, it gives us a source of courage. So God is the ultimate source of our strength and guidance, even when we are limited, even when we cannot do something on our own. Now, when we look at both perspectives, fear is something that is a part of the human emotion, and it affects our actions and behaviors. It's a natural response to threat, but faith and trust in a higher power greater than ourselves can provide comfort and empowerment to do what we cannot do on our own, and it also helps us to overcome challenges with courage. So, what causes fear? We talked about how, where does fear come from? When you think about fear, what do you think causes it? When you feel afraid, like, why do you feel afraid? And you can unmute your mic and answer, or you can, write your answer in the chat. But what causes you to feel afraid? Like, what are some things that makes you feel afraid? And when do you feel afraid? Does anyone want to share?
Why? What happened?
What do you think causes fear? When do you feel afraid?
Most times, what causes fear is not having the courage to move forward.
Not having the courage to move forward. Good answer. Very good answer.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that causes fear, right? Not feeling courageous enough to take steps forward. And fear can come from many sources. Doubt. We talked about doubt. We talked about unbelief. Doubting yourself, doubting other people. When we experience a lack of trust or faith, we may feel, uncertain. We may feel like, it can make us feel vulnerable, and we can experience, fear, feelings of fear. Now, when we are faced with situations that challenges our norm, or it pushes us past our comfort zone, this is one way fear can show up. When you're taking a test, right before taking a test, you may experience fear. When you're starting a new journey, you may feel fearful. When you are facing unfamiliar situations, you will definitely experience fear. Now, fear of rejection or being judged by others can also contribute to feelings of hesitation, like if you're concerned about how other people may view your ideas, or if they may discourage you from taking risks, things like that. It might make you not to express yourself fully. So when we know what the causes of fear are, we can now begin to take steps to addressing and overcoming them. And that's one way we empower ourselves to embrace the challenges with courage. Okay, so let's look at what are some signs of fear. What happens when we experience fear? This is how we feel here when we are experiencing fear. We are sweating, we are feeling out of control, maybe even dizzy. You're nauseated, chills, your heart rate is beating fast, you have shortness of breath. So these are some signs of fear. When you experience these things, you may be feeling fearful. Now, so after discussing what fear is, let's talk about failure. Now, failure, what does failure mean to you? Like, have you ever asked yourself this question? We talk about understanding fear of failure. We're looking at it from both psychology and Christian perspective. So, dictionary definition of failure, a lack of success in doing something, maybe something not working out as it should, or neglecting to fulfill an obligation. And of course, the first definition is the one that is most popular in our society, like not being successful at doing something is how we generally define failure. Now, we know that we know what fear is, right? We know what failures is according to the dictionary. So let's discuss, the fear of failure. Now, fear of failure is so impactful that it even has a name. It's been given a name. It's known as achyphobia. Okay, so this is the fear of failure. It's a dread that people experience when they are starting important, life goals or projects. And it can go beyond just fear of not doing well or performing poorly. It involves a deep insecurity, like expectation of defeat, like you think this is not going to work out, and it consumes your thoughts, it consumes your emotions and your actions, so fear comes from a belief that maybe you might feel like you're not good enough, and this can lead to like a fear of disappointing others or even yourself. Now, from a biblical perspective, failure is defined as a lack of success or something not meeting someone's expectation. Now, as believers, sometimes we think that, okay, because we're in a relationship with God, or you have God on your side, that means you're immune to failure, right? No, because we see that biblical teachings, it shows that failure and suffering can actually be something that molds our character. It's something that helps us to develop in areas that maybe we wouldn't have even thought of or paid attention to if it wasn't for some of those experiences of failure. Even Jesus endured this experience of failure. He endured many sufferings so that he can prove that he was who he said he was. People doubted him, they didn't believe him, but he had to experience death, which for some people they felt like that was the end of him, but he had to experience that before he could prove who he said he was, that he's the Son of God. So when we look at both the biblical and the psychology perspective, we see that fear of failure is a very deep emotion, and it does require coping mechanisms so that we can shift our mindset to overcome its effects, because sometimes the effects can be paralyzing, So we know that everyone experiences failure in their lives. There are many reasons why we may not be able to accept it, though. There are many things that might make it difficult to accept failure. So we look at the causes of the fear of failure. We've talked about the causes of fear, now the causes of the fear of failure. So it can be linked to different causes, like that affects our behaviors. So one one cause of fear of failure is learning patterns from our parents or our caregivers. So maybe you grew up in an environment where maybe your parents were overprotective, they were focused on your accomplishments and success. This can lead to developing a fear of failure, you know, and you might start to internalize and have high expectations for yourself, and you might feel like maybe you're not good enough if you fall short of these standards. Okay, so that's one cause. We also have genetic and biological factors. So this can also mean that some people may be predisposed to certain types of fear. So when, maybe your parents or your relatives, they show anxiety and fear around this particular area or topic, you might observe their actions and their behaviors and even how they communicate, right? As children, we grow up, we learn to pick up cues from our environment, and this can also make us to learn cues around fear of failure. Okay, so you might know the story of Moses, but if you don't, Moses was someone who was he had a speech impediment, you can say. He was not the most fluent speaker. He probably would not go for a public speaking event, or he might not do a webinar or something. And I kind of identify with Moses in some ways. But Moses was afraid of failure, and he was so afraid of failure that it almost like paralyzed him, like to the point he couldn't even speak in front of a group. Now God called Moses and said, "Okay, I need you to go and talk to the children of Israel. I need you to go and talk to Pharaoh so that he can free these people out of slavery." Okay, and so he had to overcome his fear of failure and not being good enough. He didn't think he was good enough to do the job. And, this fear came from a place of something that he experienced, the speech impediment, which was maybe genetic or biological. Now he was reluctant to accept the call, God's call on his life. That shows how deep the fear of failure was, and he had to overcome it so that it doesn't stop him from being who he needed to be. Okay, but the thing with that story was when Moses he pushed past that fear, and he applied his faith and trust in God. Even his own speech impediment was something that he was able to overcome. So, fear of failure does not have to control our lives. Okay, another thing that can affect or cause fear of failure is traumatic life experiences, or even stressors. When you experience high level of stress, this can really affect the development of fear of failure, right? So, you might have experiences such as physical, emotional, neglect or abuse, and that can have a lasting emotional impact or a scar that creates, feelings of not being good enough. Also, it involves, when we talk about emotional neglect, it also involves like withholding love, support, or affection. So, like sometimes growing up, you might have experienced that where maybe caregivers withheld affection from you, and that can also lead to you picking up messages that your feelings or needs are not important. Okay, past negative experiences can also create fear of failure. For example, like if you had childhood trauma or a past failure in school, or in a social situation, maybe you were made fun of, or you didn't feel like you could be successful in a certain area, that will stay with you as you grow up, right? And it will definitely affect your self-esteem and your confidence. So when we have these kinds of experiences, it can create a fear of repeating past failures, right? It happening again, and that can stop you from taking risks and moving towards your goals. So we see that the fear of failure is, can have different causes. it's a combination of these different things, but recognizing and addressing the causes is important before we can talk about, overcoming the fear of failure. Okay, now another thing, two other things that are linked to this fear of failure is striving for perfectionism. Now, perfectionism is another common cause when someone sets unrealistic high expectations, right, for themselves. And that can lead to fear of falling short or experiencing failure. Perfectionism is set by society expectations. It can include striving for perfection, maybe in how you look, in your appearance, in your achievements, or performance. And this can lead you to kind of compare yourselves, to other people and judge yourself harshly, right? For maybe some things you feel like are flaws or imperfections. Now, when you feel that way, it can also come from societal beauty standards. We live in a world that is very externally driven, right? So we talk about expectations for physical attraction, physical perfection, and that can lead to low self-esteem. It can lead to not feeling satisfied or having insecurities about particular ways that you might look or aspects of yourself. So related to physical attributes like maybe your height or skin color, or hair or texture, different things like that, right? So, like this kind of colonial mindset does influence our society. It makes us to think that, like fair skin is more beautiful than dark skin, but society's changing, right? We can see representation of different skin color and backgrounds, like in beauty pageants and movies, so things are changing, but society's standards of beauty, it shouldn't define us, but a lot of times it does affect us and can create that fear. So we talk about another reason, which is procrastination, right? This is like fear of failure, like at the core, like you fear disappointing other people or even yourself, and so it can make you to avoid challenging opportunities. It makes you avoid taking risks or trying out new things, and so you might procrastinate. You might delay starting it. Um, because you don't want to feel like you didn't meet your expectation or other people's expectation. So it's kind of related: fear of procrastination and fear of failure, especially, yeah, in this scenario. Now, procrastination can come from a fear of failure. Okay, I'm gonna pause for a minute. Mr. Steadfast.
Yeah.
Okay, how's it going so far? Any feedback? Any adjustments I need to make?
Sounds good.
Okay.
But you don't need to take so long to elaborate on something. Just cite an instance, then you move to
Okay.
for time. So
Okay.
about
Okay. It'll be a little more brief.
yeah.
Okay. So procrastination can be a way of protecting your self-worth. We also have fear of working. Yes, there are people who are afraid of that. And so that is a real fear driven, by performance anxiety. Like it can hinder, your progress. And it comes from different sources, like maybe fear of admitting ignorance or not meeting expectations. We talked about society pressure and how that can also make fear of procrastination even worse when you compare yourself to other people's success. Fear of expectations, comes from close relationships, which leads to fear of disappointing, your loved ones. So addressing these fears is key to overcoming and achieving success. Okay, so we want to talk about, this next part, which is the effects of the consequences and effects of fear of failure. So you can see, that the fear of failure can have many effects and consequences. Like we talk about how it limits personal growth and it hinders, it affects you taking risks to go for your goals. It causes low self-esteem. It can also contribute to decreased learned helplessness. So you kind of like learn how to not take action, like how to not move forward in your goals. And so this fear of failure can actually sometimes set you backwards, right? And so learned helplessness can also affect the ability to bounce back from a situation that is not ideal. So you kind of get stuck there. You just kind of get stuck and you can't move forward. Emotional instability is another impact, right? We talk about how these are different effects and consequences of the fear of failure. Let's talk about the impacts of fear of failure on self worth and growth. Okay, now from a spiritual perspective, right, it affects the fear of failure affects self worth and growth, and it affects your confidence. It makes you have doubt and negative thoughts or self talk about yourself. And it also, we see that sometimes in our weaknesses, when we focus on our weaknesses so much, it's hard for us to look at the areas where we are strong or the areas where we might be confident, right? But we do have hope that when we are able to confront those fears head on using our faith and belief, it can lead to personal growth and we can experience victory in different areas of our lives, right? But we're not on our own. We do have support and help. And sometimes God can use people. Sometimes He can use different sources to bring um, resources and support, right, for you to overcome that fear. Okay, so we want to talk about overcoming the fear of failure. Okay, that involves taking time to reflect, but it also involves embracing risk, right? We have to embrace risk and we have to allow ourselves to rely on God's guidance and provisions, even when we are in situations that we don't know what's going to happen or we feel afraid. We don't have to only lean on ourselves, like we can reach out for support to other people. Letting go of control and stepping out in faith is important, and it can help to overcome this fear by taking risks. Okay, so when we reframe our perspective, we renew our perspective, we can see that fear of failure or failure is not always what it seems. Sometimes there's an opportunity for growth, for development, and good things can come out of it. So we talked about how it works out for our good. It may not work out the way we want it to, but it will work out the way that it needs to. So shifting our focus from a fear perspective to a faith perspective will help us to kind of center ourselves, anchor ourselves, right, and to focus on the healthy risks we can take to be courageous and move forward. All right, so imagine yourself, applying for your dream job and getting rejected, right? Imagine yourself that you are connecting with someone, or you are, proposing to someone, and you feel that experience that rejection. Like, how would you handle that disappointment? Like, how would you move forward? Like, we have all felt that disappointment, but how do we move forward from that? We're going to talk about this next topic, and that's rejection. Okay, now what is rejection? We look at it from first a psychology perspective. Rejection involves complicated emotions like shame, sadness, grief, right? That people feel when they might not be accepted by others, like feeling unwanted or unloved, can create these feelings, right? Okay, it can show up in different ways. So, like in the context of like, maybe like romantic relationships or friendships or even, social connections. Some examples of rejection, it can be like, when children who struggle socially or feel left out by their peers, they may experience a feeling of rejection, right? They may not feel like they fit in. Or if you're adopted, you may feel like you don't belong anywhere, you know? If a significant relationship ends, like you might experience that feeling. So these are some examples of rejection. Now, from a biblical perspective, what is rejection? This is the human experience that when you feel maybe unwanted or you don't feel accepted, this can create that feeling. Experiencing rejection, it causes pain, it creates this anguish, right? But we can find comfort and hope when we're facing rejection by turning to scriptures. So, what does the Bible have to say about rejection? Let's look at some few key texts. Even though I was at the table all alone, God was still near me. Okay, 1 John 4:16. Even though we're rejected in a relationship, we are still loved by Christ. Okay, we have Romans 8:28. Even though we do not get the job, you know, even if you don't get a place at the bridal party, or if you don't get a spot on the team, like God still has a purpose that He will work something good out of it. Okay, we see 1 John 5:9. You know, if you experience wounding in the church, like maybe a church wound, like we can have confidence that we still have that relationship with God. If the world hates you, you know, it says in John 15, like, know that it hated me first. Like, even if your father or your mother abandons you, the Lord will hold you close. Like Psalms 118, like the stone that the builders rejected has now become the chief cornerstone, right? So we have all these verses that we can look to. And, you know, unfortunately, rejection is something that none of us can avoid. We cannot avoid it. It's inevitable at some point. It's probably going to happen to us at some point in our lives. And the Bible reminds us that even Jesus was rejected, right? Everyone, including him, everyone experiences that rejection at some point. Okay, so when we look at the fear of rejection, okay, we look at the fear of rejection. Now that we know, we've looked at these verses that talks about the assurance that we have, knowing that God's love and purpose, all of these things, even when we experience rejection, right? We know what rejection is now. Now let's talk about the fear of rejection. So this is an emotion that signals danger, just like fear of failure, but it shows up as doubt and unbelief in the same way. It affects us psychologically, right? Now we also look at the biblical perspective that God gives us strength, love, and self-control to overcome fear. So we don't have to rely on our own strength. We can rely on God's strength to conquer this fear, right? We can connect with that place of compassion, right? Compassion for ourselves, compassion for other people, to overcome this fear. Okay, so we have a roadmap that helps us to conquer the fear of rejection, and this can give us a sense of security, you know, in knowing that if we tap into our faith, we have that divine assurance that we are divinely accepted by Christ. Okay, there are different types of rejection experiences that leads to this feeling or experience of fear. So the types of rejection experiences that causes fear, it can come from family rejection. You know, maybe you have a deep wound, like for example, when children feel abandoned or when they feel unloved by family members, that can cause feelings of rejection. Like sometimes different cultures may favor one gender over the other. You know, that can make a child feel like there's preference, or even personality, like extroverted versus introverted personality preferences can cause feelings of rejection. Social rejection, right? This can create another fear when you may feel like society norms, like maybe you don't subscribe to that, or you might face discrimination based on your identity, right? So like sometimes like individuals with disabilities, or you know, people who might be homeless, or you know, transgender individuals, like differently from societal norms may experience rejection the most. And so we are called to show love, right? Unconditional love that we have experienced, that we've been shown, and showing that to everyone that we come across, because we don't know what each person is experiencing. We don't know what challenges the next person is facing, right? It can also come from relationship, rejection in relationships, like friends or family circles. Um, and it can also be from, like, for example, if you're not invited to a dinner party, you might feel left out. You might feel like you're not valued or you're not wanted. So you doubt yourself and it affects your self esteem. Romantic rejection can also make you feel like you're not worthy or lovable, right? Fear of rejection in relationships can also lead to mental health conditions like social anxiety or post-traumatic stress disorder, or obsessive compulsive disorder, right? And fawning is when someone tries really, really hard to make other people happy or to avoid problems, even if it means ignoring their own needs. These are some things that can result from that. Okay. So you may have heard of Tony Robbins. I like his take on this. He says that limiting beliefs plays a significant role in the fear of rejection. And so they're rooted in past experiences or social conditioning, and they affect how we view the world. Okay, so he talks about how needing to feel certain can make individuals avoid situations. The need for certainty causes us to seek pleasure and avoid pain, which is associated with, fear of rejection, failure, and it sometimes can cost us love in relationships, work that we're passionate about, or even personal growth. So it is something that definitely can affect us, and it has different causes, experiences that causes these things. All right, what are the signs of fear of rejection? Okay, so the signs of the fear of rejection can manifest in different ways. Okay, things like being a people pleaser, taking on too many responsibilities, being a workaholic, working too hard, difficulty saying no, setting boundaries. Sometimes you may hide your true thoughts and feelings from others, or you stay in unhealthy relationships. You are afraid of failure. Yeah, fear of failure can actually be a sign of fear of rejection. They're connected. You put up with poor treatment from others, perfectionism, being codependent in relationship, like constantly striving to be perfect. When you criticize yourself, all of these things are comes from a source of anxiety, maybe about not being accepted or valued by others. And it can make you to engage in behaviors that you're more focused on getting validation from other people or externally, even at the expense of your own well-being, right? So or being authentic and true to yourself. So when we recognize these signs, we can now, that's already the first step, right? We can now take that first step to addressing and overcoming the fear of rejection. And when we know the signs, it allows us to create healthier relationships and a stronger sense of worth and acceptance. Okay, so we want to understand the fear, the failure and rejection wounds, and how does it impact self-worth. Okay, so there are some common issues and ways that people react to failure and rejection in order to protect themselves. It can make people feel like they're flawed or not good enough. It can make, it can lead to viewing other people as emotionally unavailable, or sometimes even withdrawing emotionally, avoiding certain situations, or being angry about certain situations. It can lead to defensive behaviors, being sensitive to any signs of rejection, right? These are all things that it can lead to, being critical of yourself, having doubt, seeking approval from other people, wanting to make sure that you are perfect and achieving high standards or unrealistic standards, right? Having that pressure to succeed at all costs. These are all some of the common impacts and reactions to the fear of failure and rejection. And you can see how, it affects emotional and relational dynamics, right? So it's definitely important that we address the fear of failure, that we heal failure and rejection wounds. Okay. So when we understand these common impacts and responses, I'm gonna make this small. Change issues to impacts. Okay. All right. So when we understand these responses, how different people respond and to fear, failure, and rejection, and how they may try to protect themselves, right, from any signs of failure and rejection, it's we can now begin to take steps forward. But in order to really understand, right, how people respond differently to fear, we have to know the root. Okay, we have to know, where do these reactions come from, right? How do they shape our beliefs about ourselves? And what are the thought patterns that are behind, that are driving these reactions to fear, failure, and rejection? So let's talk about a model that helps us to understand this better: attachment theory, and how it connects to fear, failure, and rejection. So this is a framework. Attachment theory is a framework that it explains how your early relationships with your parents or caregivers, how that affects your beliefs about yourself and others. So according to attachment theory, people develop one of four attachment styles, and that's based on how they interact with their parents during childhood. So this includes secure attachment, insecure avoidant attachment, insecure anxious attachment, and disorganized, also known as fearful avoidant attachment. And this determines how people experience relationships throughout their lives. So the last three are characterized as insecure attachment styles, right? And a person may develop one of those three attachment styles if maybe the parent or caregiver were either inconsistent or neglectful or rejecting of them in some way in childhood. And so that child may grow up feeling like very sensitive to any signs, right? Any cues of rejection or failure, or even abandonment. And so they might find it hard to trust other people, and might feel unworthy, even when it comes to relationships, right? They might feel like they're afraid of judgment from others, doubt themselves, and avoid any situations where they expect failure. Okay, so when we talk about addressing and overcoming these fears, it's important that we look at healing relationships and supporting individuals. Okay, when there are positive relationships with parents, it can actually provide a secure base for a child to explore their emotions, right? It can create a sense of safety and trust in the self and others. Parents who are responsive, who are emotionally supportive to their children's needs, contribute to developing secure attachment styles. Okay, being surrounded by supportive friends, families, or mentors, that can also help you to get some validation and acceptance that helps you to counteract those feelings of failure and rejection. And so that creates room for healing to take place and for growing through emotional challenges. You might ask, well, why is it important that we address emotional challenges? Like, what is the importance of that? And of course, we have to look at it from a holistic perspective. From a psychological perspective, neglecting emotional challenges can lead to things like mental illness or even panic. and anxiety or other health conditions. When you suppress these emotions, it can lead to struggles, emotional struggles like anger, panic, anxiety, panic attacks, irritability. This are some negative ways that it can affect how someone functions and their life quality. It can cause strains on relationships and affect work performance and financial stability. So, from a biblical perspective, we see that fear of failure, we see that fear of rejection, emotional challenges are a normal part of the human experience, right? So, one thing that, from a biblical perspective, is acknowledgement, recognizing that emotional challenges is something we all experience. You know, looking for support and strength from others or even from a community. It can be a faith community, a church community, or a community of friends, people that you can lean on, right, to give you encouragement and perspective when you're facing difficult times, or counsel. Okay, now having compassion not only for yourself but for other people is important, because not everyone has a support community. There are some people who may feel like they don't really have support networks, and so that's why having compassion and empathy is important, um, to create community for those who may not have that. Okay, we can also trust in God's power to heal and transform emotional wounds, right? That gives us hope for restoration, and ultimately finding hope in God's promise for a future of peace and restoration. That can help us to persevere even when we're facing emotional challenges. Okay, so based on what we've learned so far, we're going to engage in an activity. It's called Conquering Fear. Oh, okay. It's called Conquering Fear of failure and rejection. Okay, this is a flipping card game. So we're gonna get a few volunteers, and this is how the game works. You're going to pick a number from 1 to 5, and go ahead and share with everyone. Um, share with everyone the number that you selected. So if you can unmute yourself, if I can get a couple of volunteers, maybe 3 or so volunteers, um, or I'm going to randomly pick on a few people. Okay. So you can unmute yourself and just, if you feel comfortable to turn on your video, you can, but say your name, where you're from, and then tell us a number from 1 to 5. Okay, so Miss. Okay, all right. Welcome to the Queen. Can you hear me? Okay, can we get another? Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so your number is number 1. Okay, lessons learned. Now, share a valuable lesson you learned from a past failure or rejection. Okay, number 2, failure or rejection stories. Okay, okay. Can you hear me? Okay, can you hear me? Are you able to hear me? Oh, looks like I'm not able to hear you. Uh-oh. Oh no. Okay, it looks like your battery. Oh, okay. 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna pause this for a second. Oh, okay, 1 second. Can you hear me on Zoom? Okay, I'm gonna hang up and then do the 2 slides. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, ooh. Slide 40. Oh, goodness. Okay, I'm not gonna give the example of Moses. I'm gonna take that out. Okay, can you hear me? Let me know if you're able to hear me. You can drop a message. Okay, hopefully you can hear me, right? Can you hear me? Okay, I'm just gonna do these next couple of slides. So thank you. That's the end of the game for now. Thank you to all our brave participants who played this game. Okay, that was amazing. We are going to jump right back in to, we're gonna jump right back in to the lesson. Okay, so we want to look at just a few examples, case examples of a fear of failure, right? we can see that, oh, you can't hear me? I'm thinking maybe it's the, yeah, I'm thinking maybe it's a connection. Okay, so we're gonna look at the first example of fear of failure and rejection, how it affects creativity. Okay, so we know that fear of failure and rejection can affect a person's ability to be creative and to perform and to succeed, right? You've all heard of Nikola Tesla. Okay, he was a brilliant inventor and electrical engineer. Okay, he revolutionized the field of electromagnetism, right? His ideas were very groundbreaking. But despite all of this, Tesla was facing the fear of rejection. He was afraid because of what his peers and even investors would think of him. He struggled to doubt himself, and he was frustrated despite his creativity. So that affected him in the sense of fear of failure and his creativity. But he did not give up, right? We know that how the story ends, that he faced some setbacks, but he was still going strong, and he showed the importance of overcoming obstacles. So we can learn some lessons from um, you know, from the story of Nikola Tesla. He embraced failure as a part of the creative process. So he expected that there would be some of that while he was creating things. He also trusted his vision and his ability. So we can also apply that in our life by believing in our vision, believing that we are capable of doing the things that we want to do. Okay, we can look to support from mentors, from friends, to get that validation, right? Surround yourself with individuals who believe in your potential and who can encourage you and make you feel confident when you face rejection. Okay, and another example from a biblical perspective, we see the story of Sarah and Hannah. Okay, they experienced fear of failure and rejection. Okay, now it was related to society's expectation and how that affected them. Okay, so Sarah, she was the wife of Abraham, who she was promised that she would be a mother, right? But there were many, many years where she was barren. She didn't have any children. And so that made her to feel a sense of shame, okay, and like she wasn't good enough. We live in a society where a woman's worth is defined by her ability to bear children, and Sarah struggled with this fear of failure, because she couldn't fulfill that expectation. So that made her to be judged by society and to face a lot of pressure. Okay, now Hannah also experienced this similar feeling because she was infertile and there were a lot of pressure on her. But she prayed and nothing worked. And then one day, the disappointment and feeling of isolation that she experienced came to an end. Okay, she was able to have a child. Okay, but what we can learn from these two stories is that we learn how important faith and surrendering and trusting when we are facing challenges, right? We can find hope and strength that even if we are not getting the answers that we are looking for, we have to trust in God's divine time and plan, knowing He is with us even when we are facing the trial, even when we're facing the losses, even when we don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, right? We can persevere in the face of fear and uncertainty, trusting that God's promise will be fulfilled at the perfect time. All right, so next step, if you want to overcome fear of failure and rejection. So we've taken a lot of time to talk about this model that was created for overcoming the fear of failure and rejection. Okay, and it's the STEAM model. Okay, so each letter in the STEAM model stands for something. The S stands for sensation, the T stands for thoughts, the E stands for emotions, A actions, M mentalizing, and each of the acronyms have steps. So for sensation, you define the problem, you write out the worst possible outcome, and then you accept the worst possible outcome. Then you move to your thoughts. Okay, break down those limiting beliefs. Let go of the past and change your story. Create a new narrative, right? And then we move to emotions. Build that inner strength, okay, to withstand setbacks. Shift your focus from fear to opportunities for growth and learning, okay? And then learn to control your emotions. Develop strategies to manage your emotions. And then finally, actions. Recognize your own fears. Celebrate the small wins. Every single step you're taking to make progress matters and it counts. So celebrate that. Mentalizing, boost your self-esteem, and then give yourself permission to fail. So those are some ways that you can overcome. You can use those steps, those action steps, to overcome fear of failure and rejection. We've looked at some examples. So what is the next step? If you want to take some time to dive in deeper in this work to overcome fear of failure and rejection, you can engage in self-reflection. Okay, using the STEAM model we talked about, you can explore that more through journaling. Okay, you can also challenge your negative beliefs and have more compassion for yourself and others. Therapy is a great resource. It doesn't have to be used when there's problems. It can also be used as a safe space where you can express yourself. You can reach out for support with others, family, friends, just to dive in a little deeper too. Okay, and then on your own, if you want to do some self-work, you can use the STEAM model to journal through each of the steps that we talked about. Okay, so I want you all to stay tuned. I have a lot of exciting future projects lined up. Okay, we're going to be developing some short videos. We're going to be creating some workbooks, some courses that address the fear of failure and rejection. Okay, so this is going to really help. And just stay tuned for that. If you need some additional support, definitely feel free to reach out for more information. Okay, so we have come to the conclusion of our time together today, and I want to thank you all for your being here, for being active and staying until the end. Kudos to you. Okay, we've looked at the different topics and ways of overcoming fear and rejection from both a spiritual and a psychological perspective. So just know that it's a journey, right? Healing and growing is a journey. It's ongoing. And it requires patience and compassion and a willingness to embrace being open and vulnerable, even to other people and with yourself. Okay, so as you continue on your journey, I want to encourage you to connect with things that are going to be helpful for you. And I hope that you find strength and peace, okay, to know that you are not alone on this journey. Thank you all for your presence. Thank you for participating. And I hope and wish everyone a continue growing journey and abundant blessings. Okay, here are my references. And thank you again. If you have any questions, we are going to use this opportunity for any questions that you have. All right. These are my contact information. You can reach out to me directly at my email address, through our Facebook page, Strong Families and Youth Recovery Project, Instagram page, Family Recovery Project. So you can reach out directly through those links. Thank you all. If we don't have any questions, then we are going to dismiss for today. Thank you all. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. You're such a wonderful person.
Oh,
You?
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 That was nice though.
Thank you. I'm gonna turn this off. Did you wanna? Oh.